So what the briefing taught us is that the targeting system that our military and intelligence community has built for the last 24 years is exquisite at finding, finishing, and fixing bad guys. If we're going to call into question the paradigm with which we are targeting these boats, which I'll add is a very precise paradigm, throughout the Obama years, we used this targeting system to find and kill a lot of bad guys all over the world. And if the political bodies of this nation want to take an opinion on designated terrorist organizations or whether the president has the authority to do this, that's fine. But to go after Admiral Bradley, to go after the brave men and women in uniform who are conducting these attacks is to indict the very system that was used bipartisanly for the last 24 years. I personally was involved in many of these operations, from kinetic strikes to direct action operations. And the process we have is legally sound. It's been supported by legal opinions for a quarter century now of how we find these people, we fix them, and we finish them. And keep in mind, if we don't drop a bomb and we decide to interdict, as is being said by many folks, we have an obligation to send a team to interdict. When we make that decision, you're putting our lives at risk. You're putting Americans' lives at risk. Just about a year and a half ago, you remember 2 SEALs were killed interdicting a vessel at night in the Red Sea. Interdicting a vessel underway is perhaps the most dangerous mission we have in our entire military inventory. When we task our commandos to go out and attack a vessel underway, that's an incredibly high-risk mission. So when folks say, well, we should be interdicting, that's easy for you to say here in this building between 2 cups of cappuccinos. It's a lot harder to send that 24-year-old operator out there who's got a wife and kids and tell him in the middle of the night you got to fast up out of a helicopter, scuba dive under a ship, climb up the side of that, and fight your way onto a vessel, because we're more worried about the lives of drug dealers than we are our own people. And that's a high-risk mission. That's. Oh, you're a professional at this? So she knows how the Coast Guard interdicts vessels. This is great. The reality is interdicting a vessel is high risk, any which way you cut it, whether you send the Coast Guard and FBI, or whether you send the Navy SEALs to do it. It's a high-risk mission. And I'll add, when we find, fish, and finish terrorist targets, this is a designated terrorist organization. The deadliest day in the history of the SEALs was in War Act Promise 2011. We sent in SEALs in a helicopter because the kinetic strike intelligence said, we're going to send a team in instead. Instead of bombing the building and killing the terrorists, we're going to send a team in. And by sending a team in, that helicopter was shot down on short final, deadliest day in the history of special operations, because our team made the decision, the right decision at the time, that we were going to send a team in and conduct a capture-kill instead of a kinetic strike. So making the decision to not strike and instead send Americans in, that's a decision the commander can make. That's within his authority to do so. But we have to recognize that carries risks too. And we've been doing this for 25 years. And if we're going to question the legal process and the procedural process to target bad guys that this administration is using, then all of you better start cracking open every single Obama kinetic strike that happened over 8 years of Obama, because he was active. I deployed under all 5 of my deployments were under Barack Obama. Then you're going to have to crack open every single bomb that Obama dropped, because it was the exact same process. In many cases, the same people. So it's about time we forget the political games. Americans do not want drugs coming to the country. We absolutely talked about Venezuela, because Venezuela is not just a drug cartel government. It's a transnational sponsor of crime. It's a transnational cooperator with Iran, with Russia, with China, and uses its ability to flood our nation with drugs to weaken our country and harm our people. So this is a legal process. The legal process supports what they're doing, and we're going to keep doing it until they're gone.
I reiterated my demand of Secretary Hegseth in front of all 100 senators that he allow every senator to see the unedited version, the unedited video of what happened on September 2nd. He refused. The administration came to this briefing empty-handed. That's the major question that we face. And if they can't be transparent on this, how can you trust their transparency on all the other issues swirling about in the Caribbean? Every senator is entitled to see it. If there is no problem with sources and methods, because the senators will see it in the skiff. I also believe that every American should see an appropriate version of this, of the unedited, they should see an appropriate version of what happened on September the 2nd. I saw it. It was deeply troubling. In my Gang of 8 meeting last week, I asked Secretary Hegseth, let every senator see it. He said he'd think about it. Today, he came up with no answer and no tape.
So what was his reason?
His reasoning was that it might give things away that shouldn't be. I respect classification. When you do it in the SCIF, that argument is undercut. It's just with senators in the SCIF.
Can you help us understand if they gave any rationale of what the end goal of these strikes actually is? I imagine
Look,
the question
that's
is
the sad, and I sat through this briefing once before last week. We do not, their policies in the Caribbean are unclear. We don't know what the limits are. We don't know where they'll stop. We don't know what the ultimate goal is. The president says different things at different times and contradicts himself. That's why we need full transparency, at least to the 100 senators, and much more transparency to the American people. We don't want another endless war. We don't want to stumble into something, and given Trump's erratic back and forth on this issue, I worry about that. So do many Americans.
Well, it has been made to those with jurisdiction. Not every senator has the same clarification. We all get a TS, but depends on your classification of the committee that you're in that has jurisdiction over it. Now, every senator can go get read in. Every senator can be asked, but to hold it as a whole because of the sensitivity, not of the strike, but of the assets that was used, it's not available to everybody. That's why we have committees of jurisdiction over certain areas.
Isn't that your oversight responsibility to understand
Each committee? Well, not everybody's on Intel, and there's a reason. But not everybody's on Intel. You know that. You've been up here covering that for a long time. You know committees have certain jurisdiction. So the question you're asking is why? They don't have jurisdiction over it. It is a classification issue. Listen, let's talk about the whole big picture here. We do because I'm on the committee that has jurisdiction over it. Not everybody's able to go on the Intel SCIF either. You know this. How long you been up here covering this? Okay, but
a full Senator briefing.
But this is a full. You asked about the video. I told you about the video. Why it's not being sold. And if you don't like the answer, I can't help that. I don't make the classification.
I'm trying to understand.
Okay. I told you the classification of it. I'm not trying to be combatant here, guys. This is the classification of it. If you don't like the classification, talk to the White House about it.
Can they talk about what the stated goal is?
Let's talk about the whole picture here as a whole. Guys, I'm losing patience on the whole thing because I think it's ridiculous that we're having this conversation because underneath Obama, he had 500 strikes, 3,700 different individuals were killed. There wasn't a big show about this. What you guys are all upset about is the hemisphere that's working in. The hemisphere is these are drug terrorist organizations. The same people that Obama went after, some people we've been over for the last 24 years, were terrorist organizations that were wanting to kill Americans. There has been more Americans killed because of these terrorist cartels drugging our streets, drugging every one of your all streets, every one of your all's towns, every one of the audience's towns. They killed more people in 2024 on our streets than we lost in the entire Vietnam War for U.S. personnel. These are terrorist organizations that are poisoning our streets. The president has the authority to do so. The argument is it's too close to our shores. Does anybody doubt that these are terrorist organizations? Does anybody have a question about these being terrorist organizations? So what's the difference between Obama attacking these individuals when they were deemed terrorist organizations in the Middle East versus the ones that are here right now poisoning our streets? That's what the whole conversation is about. What? Go ahead.
Is when it comes to, is it about stopping drug trafficking?
Yes.
Or is it about, as Susie Wiles said here, making Maduro cry uncle?
No, it is about, we have 20, there's a difference proofs of Maduro is sponsoring the drugs flowing through. The other 23 terrorist organizations are cartels that are poisoning our streets. So it's the bigger picture of the whole thing. It's about stopping the drugs poisoning our streets. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Professional oversight matter. Did they tell you what their ultimate goal was?
Just to make our streets safe.
But what are they going to, in terms of going into solar regime change?
No, we never said about, that was never a conversation.
Senator, this week,
Go ahead.
you're voting on the NDAA that has substantial punishment for the Secretary who does not release the video or share the execute orders. That wasn't shared.
The Secretary and this administration, I'm going to support the NDA. This administration, this is the 22nd bipartisan briefing between both chambers that this administration is briefed on. 22nd. This is a full briefing here, and tomorrow they're briefing the committees of jurisdiction is going to show the video. The committee of jurisdiction that has the clearances to watch it. That's because of the assets, the sensitivity of it. Not every member, as I'll say again, has all the same clearances because they're not on the committee of jurisdiction. When I was on Intel, I had separate access to information that not every member had. When you're on SASC or you're on HASC,
You have separate information that not every senator has. However, any senator can be asked to be read in on it if they choose to.
Every senator has the authority to authorize war.
Go ahead, Chad. I don't know. I think it's highly unlikely, Chad, because we have the noms to do today. We have NDAA still to do, and we're trying to get on the package. I think healthcare, trying to get to healthcare before the Christmas recess will probably be hard. Go ahead.
I mean, you said that certain senators have committees of jurisdiction.
Yes, we know this.
Right, we know this. But every senator has the authority to authorize war. They can vote to authorize war.
Sure they can.
To vote over their budget. And
Authorization to vote is different.
Why not give everybody the access to this information that could inform their key votes?
Yeah, because there's a lot of members that's going to walk out of there that's going to leak classified information, and there's got to be certain ones that you hold accountable. So not everybody can go through the same background checks that need to be able to get cleared on this. Do you think Omar needs to have all this information? I will say no.
Is that what they said?
No, they not say. That's my opinion.
I could back it up.
Go ahead.
Back it up, but you're saying, I just want to back that up. You're saying that senators can't, U.S. senators, current senators can't.
Oh, I don't know.
With classified
Well, do they leak? They call you guys and leak, and some of this stuff. Tell me if there's no. No, I'm just saying. You guys answer your own question. Is there leaking information? There is stuff that gets leaked out of classified meetings all the time, and you guys know that.
But you don't think
I don't
that
know.
they're trying to overclassify it to deny
No.
the public this
No, I'd have
information?
because I said as soon as I walked to the mic. Because of the sensitivity of some of the equipment that were being used and the techniques, it's at a highly classified level. I said that as soon as I came here. It has nothing to do with overclassifying it. This administration has been highly transparent, a lot more transparent than the Obama administration, the Biden administration on all this stuff. And for you guys to be upset about it, I'll repeat myself. The only reason why this is a thing is because of the hemisphere to which they're operating in. Because no one threw a big fit about this when it was happening in the Middle East. Yes.
Did Secretary Hegseth talk about what kind of drugs were on the boat allegedly? Was it fentanyl? Because
I know. We've always heard it's been mainly cocaine. It doesn't matter. It's drugs.
how many deaths are attributed
To what?
How many deaths are attributed to cocaine overdose?
I don't know. What's the difference? It's a drug.
Did the briefers provide any timetable for how long these targeted strikes could last?
As long as there's still boats, boys in our streets coming to our towns, dropping the drugs off, they're going to continue these strikes.
Is the goal regime change?
Yes, I am okay with
Is the
it.
goal regime change?
That wasn't the conversation.
Does Congress have any role to play, like if they continue striking the boats, or is there any level at which Congress will step in and say, okay, we need to authorize this?
We've been using this same technique for 24 years. And nothing has changed except the hemisphere to what we're operating in. That's it. Do you have a question? Yes, and they should be. I mean, think about this. We have our aircraft carriers operating in our hemisphere now, not in other hemispheres. I like the idea that they're right here. I like the idea that they're not only doing that, but we're also getting China's attention too by overfishing our international waters close to our shores. So I love the idea that we have these assets right around. It makes me feel cozy when I sleep at night.
You said you saying
Do what? Sorry.
Walk me through this idea of using the same authorization for 24 years.
Yes.
There's been a lot of criticism that those two authorizations are what were calcified. If it's that important, if you laid out the cases, why not do an authorization that is unique? Because if the threat is as dire as you suggest,
There isn't any other authorization that's required. This is we didn't deem terrorist organizations based on the hemisphere that they're operating in, Chad. We deemed the organizations terrorists, or we didn't.
based on a strike on the World Trade Center in 2001.
Yeah, that happened here.
And that's the
That happened here, and we said we'll go after terrorist organizations no matter where they're operating. They're killing our loved ones, our families, and our friends on our own streets. There are terrorist organizations. There's been 24 of them deemed terrorist organizations, and we're going to use the authority we have. No, not at all.
You support a strike on Venezuela against Maduro?
No, not against Maduro. Do I agree going after chemical facilities that's on shore? Absolutely, I will. Do I want to commit troops to Venezuela? Absolutely not.
Did they tell you to respect that? Did they tell you to respect land strikes?
Sorry?
Did they tell you in that room to respect land strikes?
No, that wasn't the conversation. But I would support it. I'm just saying I have to run. Yes.
The big picture question here is that did the U.S. do something, and I understand your point about the Obama administration, dealing with this administration and what's happening now, you're a senator now. Values, American values, do you believe that it's a clear part of American policy that we should not kill defenseless individuals?
They're not defenseless. The weapon that they're bringing is, I know, but you said defenseless. They're not defenseless. These aren't our brothers and sisters that's trafficking it. They're killing our brothers and sisters. I have zero feelings for someone that's poisoning our streets.
What is the American flag?
What?
In general, is that
I will do anything to protect my family. Anything to protect my family. They're bringing poison into our streets. It's affected everybody that's standing here. Everybody here has been affected by someone that has been affected by drug overdose. I promise you have, because it's that outrageous. I have zero problem sitting at the bottom of the ocean, and I hope they rot in hell for it, because they know what they're doing when they get on that boat and they're trafficking the drugs to our streets. Do you think they care about our family? Heck no, they don't care, and so I don't care about them.
Is it better to err on the side of fatal strikes?
No, there is check. Absolutely not. There is a lot of checks. There's a lot of checks and balances that go in place. Every boat that's coming across the Caribbean, we're not striking. There's some of them that we decide to have interdiction with the Coast Guard because they don't make all their criteria. There's multiple layers of criteria before we actually decide to make that strike. There's multiple criteria that take place. If one of them's not missing, then we do interdiction. Yes, and there's been more interdiction over the same period than we have actually had strikes. Yes. No, and I'm sorry, I gotta go.
Well, I have a little bit different view, I think, probably than Senator Mullins.
The senator said that the videos were not released simply because people are at different levels of classification as senators, and that committees of jurisdiction can see these videos. Why is that not? I mean, that seems like a reasonable explanation, doesn't it?
The American people need and deserve to see these videos. There was, in effect, no specific justification for whatever withholding is occurring, and the failure to provide them, I think, undermines the trust and credibility of this entire operation. If certain of the videos were released, as they have been, why not the others? There was no answer to that question, and I believe we need a subpoena not only for the videos, but for all the documents, evidence, orders that have been issued, and I'm going to continue working for their release.
What was the rationale for not showing you the full video?
I can't talk about what the rationale was, but I can tell you this briefing left me with more questions than answers, both as to the rationale for non-disclosure and as to the operation itself. And I found the Office of Legal Memorandum, the legal supposed justification, just completely lacking in legal support. It is, in effect, a abjectly inadequate justification for this kind of killing in open waters of non-combatants when, in fact, interdiction by the Coast Guard is a very realistic and likely way to interdict these shipments. We're all in favor of stopping the flow of narcotics, cocaine and fentanyl, but there are ways to do it without killing in this kind of combatant situation.
Senator, can I ask you a healthcare question before you go? I mean, is this just happy talk? Do you think they can actually get something done on healthcare before the end of the year?
We all hope there is a compromise, but
there's nothing. I mean, it's Tuesday.
So far, the Republican mantra has been to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act. They can't agree on anything to replace it, and they can't seem to bring themselves to the table to talk about a reasonable compromise to extend the health care tax credit.
But if this was going to get done, this should have been later.
It should have been done long before now, and I don't see any real movement toward a compromise.
Let me say at the front end that because the presentation was so long and the briefing was fairly short, I didn't get a chance to ask my question, but nothing has changed. I received no new information. It feels like, particularly in terms of the video, they're going to allow SASC to see it. I think they're trying to run out the clock in terms of holding off giving it to the rest of the senators, so the Senate doesn't see it before we break for the holidays. I also find it, more than disturbing that the requests I've made and others in a bipartisan way for the execution order, for the after action report, from the legal opinion that was around this specific strike on September 2nd, and for that matter, whether the overarching policy document was changed between September 2nd and it was actually written on September 5th. I got none of those answers. And as somebody who has cautioned my colleagues about making accusations, because once you make some of these accusations, you can't get them back, it's been more than frustrating to think that the documentation that might lend to their case, why they're not willing to give it to us. I do believe that General Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, would like to share that. I think the person, again, who, whether it's the video or sharing the documentation, holding this back is Pete Hegseth.
I'll be introducing a live unanimous consent request to release the video both to the full Congress but also to the American people. The public should see this, and I hope that we'll have support to make it public. I found the legal explanations and the strategic explanations incoherent, but I think American people should see this video, and all members of Congress should have that opportunity. I certainly want it for myself.
All right. Thank you, guys. Obviously, we had a classified hearing, so the details of which we can't discuss. It's, I believe, our 22nd or 23rd bipartisan engagement. We'll continue to engage with Congress on this. We're headed to the House now to do a similar briefing and provide updates on this counter-drug mission, which is focused on dismantling the infrastructure of these terrorist organizations that are operating in our hemisphere, undermining the security of Americans, killing Americans, poisoning Americans. And this has been a highly successful mission that's ongoing and continued, and we're pleased to be here today to update Congress on how that's developing and how that's moving forward. As I said, I believe it's our 22nd, 23rd such engagement. It's certainly been at least the 4th or 5th that I've been involved in, and those will remain and be ongoing. Okay?
I would just echo that. It is the 22nd bipartisan briefing we've had on a highly successful mission to counter designated terrorist organizations, cartels, bringing weapons meaning drugs, to the American people and poisoning the American people for far too long. So we're proud of what we're doing, able to lay it out very directly to these senators and soon to the House, but it's all classified. We can't talk about it now. We're also going to tomorrow allow the HASC and SASC to see the unedited video of the September 2nd, alongside with Admiral Bradley, who has done a fantastic job, has made all the right calls, and we're glad he'll be there to do it. But in keeping with long-standing Department of War policy, Department of Defense policy, of course we're not going to release a top-secret, full, unedited video of that to the general public. HASC and SASC and appropriate committees will see it, but not the general public.
Great. Very good briefing. Before I had this job, I was a judge advocate for about 30 years. There's no doubt in my mind that we have the legal authority to blow up these boats, interdict these boats. In 1989, President Bush, 41, literally invaded Panama, dropping the 82nd Airborne, taking the president of Panama out, putting him in American prison because he was a narco-terrorist drug dealer. There is no difference. In 1994, President Clinton took down the military takeover, the junta, the generals who took over Haiti, and brought back civilian control of Haiti. He was right to do that. Bush 41 was right to clean up Panama. Trump is right to deal with a narco-terrorist state called Venezuela. Maduro is not a legitimate president. He's actually head of one of these terrorist organizations, and I am glad that we're taking him on. But here's my concern. You got 15% of the Navy pointed at this guy. If he's still standing when this is over, this is a fatal, major mistake to our standing in the world. If after all this, Maduro is still in power, that's the worst possible signal you could send to Russia, China, Iran. So I ask the question, what happens when he leaves? And they say that this is counter drugs. It'd be nice if he left. That's not a good answer. I want to reassert again, you cannot allow this man to be standing after this display of force, and I did not get a very good answer as to what happens next.
Why not release this video to the
I think it should be.
Is it a mistake?
I think the video should be given to everybody in Congress.
Do you buy their explanation
You know, the least of my concerns is this friggin' video. Release it, make your own decisions. This is lawful. I have every confidence that what they're doing is no different than what Bush did. Nobody in the Congress accused the military leadership under President Bush 41 of being a war criminal for invading Panama without congressional authorization.
But by not releasing the video, are they feeding into those attacks?
No, just no. The video. I don't think most Americans give a damn about the video. I'd like all of us to see it. Most Americans are going to know what's going to happen next. I want to know what's going to happen next. Is it the policy to take Maduro down? It should be if it's not. And if he goes, what's going to happen next? I'd like a better answer as to what happens when Maduro goes.
Graham, isn't that the essence, the point that you talk about what happened in '89?
Yeah.
That was a limited operation with Angola Noriega. Happened about a month. Haiti even more limited. We've been doing
Limited? You took the wait that you called it wait. 1989 wasn't a limited operation. We literally invaded the country, took the president in power, and put him in jail. That's not limited. It doesn't matter the duration. The point is, we have legal authority, in my view, to do in Venezuela what we did regarding Panama and Haiti. The question is, how long does it take? It's not an issue for me. If you want to stage this thing, fine. But I want to address the question, is it the goal to take him out? If it's not the goal to take him out, you're making a mistake.
Senator, is it regime change to take him out? Is it regime
Yes.
change or kill him?
I don't care. Just as long as he leaves.
Did they explain that as regime change? Was that the goal?
No, I'm saying if it's not the goal, it is a huge mistake. Do you understand what I'm saying? If after all this, we still leave this guy in power, what did Trump say? His days are numbered. Every indication by President Trump is that the purpose of this operation is to shut down the Maduro regime and replace it with something less threatening to the United States. Exactly what we did in Panama. And what I want is some clarity going forward. Is that, in fact, the goal? If it is the goal, I would celebrate that being the right goal.
So they need to come back, or that there should be hearings.
Huh.
Doesn't that underpin then the need for oversight?
No,
Clarity on the ultimate goal?
we oversight. What I want to do is, we didn't. I don't know who provided oversight to the invasion of Panama. This is not about look at the video. Let Congress look at the video. Well, no, Congress. I'm saying they should give it to Congress. I support that. I think that's fair.
To open a provision in the NDAA that restricts Secretary Hegseth's travel budget if the video is not.
I have told him that I think he should release the video. But the point you're missing here is not about blowing up a single boat. We've blown up 25 boats. For what purpose? Why are we killing all these people? To protect America. And if Maduro is what they say he is, and I believe them, he needs to go. It should be the policy of the United States that when this is over, he's no longer standing like Noriega was no longer in charge of Panama. If that's the goal, count me in. And I want to know, what's the plan for the day after?
Has the administration properly articulated the objective here with Venezuela?
I think they've articulated their legal authority. I think they've articulated how they decide to blow somebody up and not. But I want clarity right here. President Trump is saying his days are numbered. That seems to me that he's got to go. If it's the goal of taking him out because he's a threat to our country, then say it. And what happens next? Don't you think most people want to know that?
Do you want them to come back, and would you like to see
Huh?
They didn't answer that.
Name back.
They
Name
gave
back.
an answer that was confusing to me.
So do you want them to come back, and should there be public?
I want us to be level with the American people. What we're doing, I think we're doing a good thing. I think we're making us safer as a nation. We're cleaning up our backyard. Too many Americans have died from. He's aligned with Hezbollah. There's a million reasons you want Maduro to go, but just say it. Just say this man in our backyard runs a narco-terrorist state, aligned with international terrorists. He's a blight on the region. He's there illegitimately. He's not the lawful elected leader. He needs to go and come up with a plan to take him out if he will not voluntarily leave.
Senator Graham, if that's the issue, though, with say, I'm not impressed with their plan here, why wouldn't Congress then assert itself with an authorization organization and say, this is the plan, this is what
No, that's not what we're doing here.
Why wouldn't you do that?
What am I authorizing? It's not my job to be Comanche. It's not my job to come up with a plan. It's my job to ask them, what is the plan? We're not military leaders here. If you have Congress come up with a plan to invade Venezuela, what could possibly go wrong? That's not a very good idea. I think we should push the administration. I am. Be clear on what the end game is. If the end game is to take Maduro down, count me in. I just want you to articulate what happens next. No, but I think you have to have all options on the table if, in fact, your goal is to take him down. And if it's not your goal to take him down, you're making a major mistake, because what you're doing is you're displaying a lot of force, you're labeling the guy as a threat to the country, and at the end of the day, he still stands. Every other terrorist group out there will see that as tremendous weakness.
Do you support a land operation?
I would support whatever's necessary to reach the end goal, and I don't think we need to invade Venezuela to get there. I think there are targets on the land that would rattle the infrastructure around Maduro, that it would break our way. We need to make sure that the goal, when this is all said and done, this man no longer leads a narco-terrorist state.
He actually brought it up in the brief, oddly, which I thought was, just some reiterating his talking points on this. When I was specifically asking him questions about strikes, again shows that this is very performative for him, even in front of a group of senators. What I did learn down there is they don't want to be that transparent with us. There were 6 briefers. That used up about 35 to 40 minutes of the hour that we had. And then we had 20 minutes for questions. So of 100 senators in the room, maybe 6 of us got to ask questions of the group, and then it was over, then they left. So, my takeaway from this is I have more questions now than when I walked in. They didn't give very good answers, though we did learn a few things, which in my view makes this entire operation even more questionable.
When you say you have more questions,
well, I'm not going to get into specifically what I learned in a classified brief, but there were things that the Admiral Allen said that leads to even more questions.
Senator, when you say you asked a question that Secretary Hegseth brought up investigation, how exactly?
He didn't say investigation. His talking points on the video that the 6 of us released and what he thinks about this. And then eventually I replied to him and I said, hey, these are the same views you had in 2016. Very eloquently, I said, like the way he expressed himself in 2016 about this, same issue. And I said, by the way, you were specifically speaking about this president. He didn't really say anything, and he was trying not to answer some of the specific questions that I had about these boat strikes.
Some of you in that video are going to get access to see that edited video.
Yeah, I'll see it tomorrow. Yeah, it should be released, certainly, to every U.S. senator. There is no reason why to pick and choose, like you're on armed services or you're on intel, you get to see this. We're all equal in this job. We represent people all across this country. And it's all of our responsibility to hold this administration, and in this case, the Department of Defense, accountable for their actions. But they have issues. Obviously, they have issues with what is in that video, and that's why they don't want everybody to see it. What we also need is open hearings so the American public can learn about this directly from the people that they employ. The Secretary of Defense, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the admiral in charge of the operation. All those individuals should be in a public hearing, and that video, by the way, should be released publicly. They released all the video that they liked, and then they got to one specific video that they know creates some problems for them, and for that reason they don't want it released.
A few weeks ago, that you trust Church Laborers is going to conduct oversight on this. Do you still feel like you have hearings and you can call?
I think he's going to try to. Yeah, sure.
Do you accept anything about Secretary Hegseth's argument for one of these videos and the level of classification on the show?
Well, I haven't seen it yet. That's what he claims. But he showed other videos, and very quickly, by the way. You know, they're all about, you know, getting views on his Twitter account. You know, it's rather performative. But this operation is, you know, not like other operations that they try to compare it to, right? There's no authorization from Congress. It is not like when we went after Al-Qaeda. This is different. And to me, this still feels like this is law enforcement. This is drug interdiction. And we don't want cocaine coming to U.S. shores. Fentanyl, by the way, is a much bigger problem. And if you took the resources that are being applied to this problem in the Caribbean, and you put those resources on the southern border at the land ports of entry with technology to detect and interdict fentanyl, that's where you're going to get some good results. Because this operation is costing millions and millions of dollars every single day. Let me just say, those routes through the Caribbean are not to traffic fentanyl. Everybody knows that. They don't even have to. Nobody will even ask that question because everybody understands that these are routes to traffic cocaine predominantly to Western Africa and to Europe. Well, I have tremendous respect for Senator Sheehy. I asked a question to the Coast Guard Admiral, about how many interdictions have they done in the same period of time. I'm not going to tell you what he said, but that is the question I had for him. I think he'd be surprised by the answer.
Has DoD reached out to you at all as part of their investigation?
The last thing I heard from DoD regarding me personally was in 2011 when I retired from the United States Navy and was given the Legion of Merit for my service to this country. So again, yeah, this is all a bunch of bullshit. And the reason why, I think, is because this is just about sending a message to retired service members, active duty service members, government employees. Do not speak out against this president or there will be consequences. So it's a lot bigger than, you know, just dealing with me. And that's why they don't handle this professionally. Like you would expect at some point that DoD would notify me of like an investigation, but they haven't. And they haven't because I think what they really care about is the public message. They're going after me, a U.S. Senator, for something I said that was lawful. It was the truth. It was something people are trained on. It was something that Pete Hegseth said in 2016 multiple times. And in his case, specifically about this president and his concerns. They don't want other people saying these kind of things. So they're trying to shut people up. But in this case, they picked the wrong guy, because I'm not going to shut up about this. I'm going to continue to do my job. I'm going to stick up for our Constitution. I mean, I think Pete Hegseth is a guy goes to work every day to try to figure out how does he please the president. That's a recipe for some major problems.
All right, thanks, folks.
Thank you.